welcome to the August session or August meetup of the Spokane Python user group. Today we're going to be talking about using MkDocs or MkDocs or MarkDocs, however you want to pronounce it. Very popular tool used to generate documentation for packages or open source projects, and you can host that on any static site. There's no one standard way to pronounce MkDocs. There's not a general consensus by the community or the people who created it. Common pronunciations include MkDocs, MkDocs, my personal favorite, MarkDocs, considering that it is written in Markdown. But we'll refer to it as probably a mix of all of those today. One thing I want to touch on really quick is I did send out a feedback survey about a month ago, and we have gotten some responses, so I just wanted to touch on those really quick. It does sound like most people have been enjoying our evening, about 6 to 7, 7:30 time frame. It did sound like a subset of people were interested in having our meetups during the workday, maybe at lunchtime, so something worth considering. Most people were a fan of our monthly meeting cadence, though some did want it to be multiple times a month. We'll see. And the topics, which I listed, so it was just a multi-select. The most popular ones were things regarding web and APIs, including API frameworks like Django, Fast API, web scraping / parsing frameworks like Beautiful Soup. Machine learning topics were also popular, which we haven't done so far since I've started organizing the meetups, including sklearn, TensorFlow, PyTorch, SciPy would kind of go with sklearn. I'm admittedly not super knowledgeable about those, but if there's a strong want to learn more about those, then it's definitely something we can do. Kind of going along with the machine learning, or a precursor to it, would be some data analytics type stuff, including NumPy and Pandas. People are also definitely interested in attending in person. When that does become an option, very excited to have what we will do is have dual, so people who want to join virtually can do that. People who want to come in person can come and network and enjoy some face-to-face interaction, as well as probably some snacks. There's also a small handful of people who did seem interested in maybe some beginner level topics or a beginner subgroup. So if there is a want for that, definitely interested in that, or definitely interested in accommodating the people who are more interested in those. I would say that our topics so far have been maybe semi-intermediate, doing things like Fast API, talking about typing, using Celery and Dramatic. We've done kind of intro material on those topics, but the topics themselves are maybe a little bit past your beginner level. Please do submit your feedback if you haven't already. The link is in the meeting, and it is also on the slides. It won't be going anywhere, so feel free to submit your feedback whenever you'd like. And here's our outline for today. First thing we're going to do is get started with MarkDocs. We'll just create a really basic website. Next up, we'll add a little bit of content to the website, kind of get a feel for how we do add content, what the writing process looks like, that kind of thing. Then we'll kind of add some look and feel to our website, a little steak and sizzle, if you will. And then finally, we're going to end with getting our website hosted. In this case, we'll be using GitHub Pages, especially because it works really well with static websites and static frameworks. So without further ado, let's go to the next slide. A couple of sites that do use MarkDocs. Most of these are Python ones, as it is the Python user group. Shameless plug, you're in the Spokane Python user group, and so I threw the link to Spug up there. If you didn't know, I've been working on creating a website for the Spokane Python user group, somewhere where you can go and look at the previous meetups you might have missed, read about them, and in the future, we'll have links to videos. Other really popular websites that use MkDocs is Fast API. We've talked about it before. Pedantic, very popular. Fast API uses it. ODmantic, a ORM for MongoDB. MkDocs itself obviously uses its own software, which is nice, dog food in its finest. And then something we'll talk about a little bit later when we get to the styling section is material for Markdown docs, a very popular theme that adds a lot of stuff, and many, many more. There's definitely projects that aren't Python related that do use MkDocs, but we are a Python user group, so that's mostly what I listed. What is MkDocs? You might be asking. A couple bullet points. It's not too hard to wrap our heads around, but we'll run through it really quick. It's a static site generator that's geared towards building project documentation. Pretty much all those sites that we just listed are using it for documentation, but you can really use it for anything you want to at the end of the day. It's definitely geared towards giving you some nice tools to show code and code snippets and that kind of thing. The source files are written in Markdown, so put Word away, put Notepad away, and open up your favorite Markdown editor. Mine is VS Code. And there's only one configuration file, mostly. Just a single YAML file, and you're rocking and rolling. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and grab some code. Just like Rachel Ray, I already have the code pulled out of the oven, so we're going to skip that part for me, but I will include the, I have included the code snippet in the meeting if you want to follow along or go check out the repo. There you go. Well, here it is. Here's our beautiful Spokane Python user group website. You can see we have a list of upcoming meetups, including today's meetup and the previous meetups. And I've done my best to convert our presentations and documentation for each meetup into a nice little web page you can go read about. But what we're really looking for is VS Code. So here we have a Git clone of just a nice template we can work off of. I'll show you what that looks like really quick here in our IntelliTech Samples, the company I work for, and sponsors a lot of our Spokane meetups. You'll see a MkDocs template repository, pretty basic. We'll see how to spin up MkDocs and build it. And you're going to want to make sure you're on our main branch. We do have some other branches, but we'll save those for a little bit later. So first thing we're going to want to do, same README I just had open, and I actually have an extension that makes it a little prettier. Maybe not, fair enough. First thing we're going to want to do, just go ahead and spin up our project. If you haven't made a project before, it's really simple. MkDocs or MkDocs new project name, and it gives you essentially what we have here, a docs folder. In this case, I did MkDocs new and name the project docs, and it just spits it out to this docs directory. Inside, we'll see a Markdown file index, so just kind of the base. Oh, Markdown caught up for me. We'll see this is just auto-generated when you create a new project. And then the other file of interest is going to be this MkDocs YAML file. So when I said you only have one YAML file to configure your whole site, this is basically what we're looking at. And this is just the default that gets generated. Let's go ahead and serve this up. MkDocs serve. Oh. Going to want to activate my virtual environment because I'm using virtual env, and in this case I'm using PowerShell, so I'll run activate.psn1 and MkDocs serve, and just like that we're up and running. And let me pull that over here. Oh, not that. Here we go. 127.0.0.0 or .1, our loopback address, and here you can see just like that with really all we had to do was run MkDocs new, MkDocs serve, and we got a pretty solid looking little site. Looks like we're able to navigate around a little bit. We can even search. Maybe we search for project. Looks like the word project pops up. In this case, we only have just the one page. We do have a link to the MkDocs its documentation, which you can see its theme is pretty much the same as ours. So this isn't super interesting so far. We don't really have any content. There's not a lot going on. But let's go ahead and kill the server. And we're going to go ahead and hopefully I can do this right. I don't use git checkout from the command line too often. But we're going to do git checkout. And actually, just for the sake of making sure I do get it right, excuse me, we're going to use VS Code's nifty integrated branch switcher, and we're going to hop over to clone force 99. So we're going to check that out, and you can see a couple things have changed. We have nav, markdown extensions, and our site name changed. So site name is pretty obvious. We decided we want to name our site Clone Force 99. I'm a big Star Wars junkie, love Bad Batch, and just wrapped up the end of the season. There won't be any spoilers, so if you haven't watched it, fear not, you can keep listening. But we will talk about the characters just slightly, and we'll use them as some nice filler for our website. So the first thing you can see here is this attr underscore list or attribute list underneath our markdown extensions. So this is where we can add extensions to the MkDocs. When we serve it, it'll add some additional capabilities to our website. In this case, I'll show you what this one does in just a moment. But if we look a little further down, we'll see our nav. And this is really just the skeleton of our website. We're defining a page named Hunter, and it's one of the characters in Clone Force 99, or Bad Batch. And in this case, Hunter, the URL is going to use hunter.md or markdown as its source file. Let's hop back over to our index. And if you're not familiar with markdown, this might look a little bit weird, but here we have the H1 is essentially what the single # indicates, so that's our title. And here what we're really showing is an image. This is basically kind of similar to an href, but in markdown syntax. And on the back of that, we're specifying the height and width. And you can't natively do this in markdown, but because of our attr list extension, we are able to actually go in and manipulate the size of our image, among other things. That's just one example. We have a nice little summary that I borrowed from Wikipedia. Always fun to binge read on that website. And then you can see we have a few links. Again, if you're not familiar with the markdown syntax, to basically create a link, you encapsulate the text that you want to display inside of the braces, and inside of the parentheses, you put the link, in this case, markdown files. So let's go ahead and serve our saucy website back up. The following pages exist in the docs directory, but are not included in the nav configuration. We're just not including our index. That's okay. So let's hop back over. And here we go. We'll see that our locally running website, we now have a few new things. We have that image that we talked about, and this image is actually quite a bit bigger, but we've resized it down to make it a little bit better. In case you're curious, this is what Wikipedia listed as the icon or emblem for Clone Force 99. We have some nice headers, which we use the ampersands the pound signs to indicate. Again, nothing too crazy going on, just a pretty basic website here. But we do have now some links. And here you can see I included some images and a quick little summary of some of the characters. All of the text and images were also borrowed from Wikipedia. Let's try our search really quick. Maybe we want to go look at crosshair. Oop, crosshair. Oop. There we go. Working like a charm. Got a little bit of navigation going on. That's nice. So far, though, our website looks exactly the same. We've added some body, so that's a nice first step. Some copy, I should say. Have we added anything else? Looks like we have a few markdown files that are pretty simple looking for each of our pages. We have our images. We added a favicon. So if we do hop over to our website again really quick, you can see that, oh, looks like our favicon isn't working. Let's do a hard refresh. Oh, there we go. So our favicon is working, but make sure you do that hard refresh. In Firefox, it's Control F5. Let's hop back over to our slides really quick, just make sure we're following along. We've grabbed our code. We added some content. Now let's make it look a little bit better. And just like a nice cooking show, I'm just going to do a git checkout and pull open my fully cooked stylized website. So we haven't made any changes. We don't even need to stop serving the website. We can just let it keep serving. But let's go ahead and go check out Clone Forest-99 v2. And we'll see that because we're using MkDocs serve, it just does a nice hot reload. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the differences. So far it looks like there's not really any new files, but if we look at our mkdocs.yaml, it's actually quite a bit different. So let's take a look and see what's different. We have a few more extensions. Okay, interesting. Maybe we can come back and look at those. Looks like we're specifying an external CSS file. Our nav looks the same, but a totally new section is theme. So far we haven't actually done anything to theme our website, but now what we're doing is using a separate pip package, mkdocs-material, which we installed when we did pip install-r requirements.txt. And we'll see that we're using the material theme. So that's Google's material. It's just a convenient theme that's ready for you to use. In this case, we do have to specify, it looks like our logo and our favicon. Looks like we're using a font. I wonder where that's coming from. And it looks like we're changing our palette just a little bit. So using something called slate and changing our primary and accent color to red. It looks like we have some sort of feature. Let's hop over to our index really quick. Looks like pretty much everything is the same, except now we have this new section. Text favorite code is Python. In this case, the double asterisks indicate it's bold. And it looks like we have a code fence, and we're specifying the code type is Python. So hopefully Markdown is gonna, when it gets converted, it'll look nice. Looks like we have one new file, this extra.css, which we reference in our mkdocs.yaml. So basically what this is just giving you the capability to add extra CSS. You can also add extra JavaScript that gets executed to your website. So something really nice about MkDocs is it allows you to really extend and customize, but it gives you a really nice website from the get-go. So in this case, it looks like we're changing our MD header. MD is the prefix for most material components in this case. And it looks like we're changing it to black. So our website did got rebuilt and reloaded. So let's hop back over and take a look, see what all these changes got us. Ooh, it's quite a bit different. Looks like we have a new logo. That's nice. We're not using the default logo anymore. The theme is totally different. Looks like material-ish. If we compare it to this kind of okay, sort of vanilla-ish looking base template, or yeah, base theme. Looks like we actually have a lot of new stuff going on here. We have a font that's different, kind of sci-fi themed. Looks like we do have that syntax highlighting that we really definitely want when we're showing our code, especially for a website that might be dedicated to some sort of documentation. Looks like our links changed a little bit. We got some nice color changing when we highlight. We can navigate around pretty easily. We still have our search. Overall, this website's looking pretty good, I would say. Looks like our navigation moved to the bottom of the screen. And one thing you'll notice is that the footer now says made with material from MkDocs. So if we go look at that website, you'll see that it's the documentation for material for MkDocs, and it's actually, though it might not look like it at first, using the same exact theme. It just allows for so much customizability that this really almost doesn't even look at all like ours, but it is. It's based off the same exact theme. Looks like the navigation's a little bit different going across the header. And it looks like we have some sort of button. Changes the theme between light and dark. That's pretty neat. But let's hop back over to our website. I'm pretty happy with how it looks so far. If I was hosting some sort of fan site for Clone Force 99, I'd be pretty happy with how this is coming along. Now that we've seen our updated site, let's hop back over to the code really quick and maybe connect the dots between some of the visual changes we saw and some of the code changes we're seeing. So if we open back our Mark MkDocs.yaml file, we'll see a few things. It looks like we added a few extensions, this highlight and super fences. What these are doing are enabling that syntax highlighting in our code fences. If we remove that, we're not going to have that syntax highlighting. If I do remove those really quick and save it, we can get a nice hot reload, and that's not the right. If we make sure we navigate here, oh, gross, looks like we lost the syntax highlighting. Not a fan. Let's add it back. Our CSS looks like it's changing the header to the background color of black. So let's comment that out and see what happens. Red, interesting. Kind of matches our colors down here. If I had to guess, it's the same color as these, which it is. So what we're able to do here is override some of the colors in our theme, which is really nice that we can do that. In this case, I want kind of a black header, kind of fits with the dark clone trooper vibe, if you will. One thing you'll also notice is we don't actually have anywhere in Orbitron.waf or some other font file. And what this font text property actually does for us is it just by default will go and grab that font from Google Fonts if it exists. So this Orbitron exists on Google Fonts, and that's really convenient because a lot of times you're pulling your fonts from Google Fonts. Say font 3 times fast while you're at it. That's something that's enabled by default, but you can disable it if you don't want to use Google Fonts, and you can definitely supply your own, but this is nice for getting up and running really quickly. Another thing we see here is navigation.instant. Basically what this is doing is sort of simulating a SPA or single page application. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's not actually any reloading between the links. You can see how it's sort of instant other than the pictures kind of popping in and out. If we comment out this features, navigation.instant, and open our site back up, we'll see that when we navigate between these links, it is actually going to a whole new, it's doing kind of your typical go to a new link, reload everything, etc., which takes a little bit longer. And maybe doesn't look quite as clean. Fortunately, the navigation.instant doesn't override your browser's back button. If I click on Echo and then Hunter, maybe Crosshair, I'm still able to navigate. So we're not losing that. We're not breaking anything in the browser, but it does load quicker, which is super nice. Let's hop over to our index. Our code fences are working. That's great. That's about it. That's all we've changed so far, with really maybe less than 30 lines of code change. We went from a website that looked like this to a website that looked like this. And in my opinion, it looks quite a bit better. And obviously you can, customize it and theme it till your heart's content. If we look at a few of the more popular websites that build off of MkDocs and material for MkDocs, you'll see Fast API uses its sort of green theme all throughout. It's got some nice sponsors. I think it's got an announcement tag up here. This is all stuff that you can do through MkDocs pretty easily. Looks like he's got this custom, I think it's actually a JavaScript package. I looked at this once because I thought it looked really pretty. Another one, OD Mantic, whose source code I've actually contributed to slightly. Maybe not. That's all right. Moving on. Let's hop back over to our slide really quick. We've made it look better. I'm really happy with that. So all that's really left in our outline is let's make sure our GitHub Pages is working. Let's figure out how to deploy and stuff. So in this case, we'll take a look at my GitHub Actions files in a moment. If my internet would hang with me. Maybe not. That's okay. We'll look at it. And so there's a GitHub action that is out there that you can just go and use and set it up pretty easily. If we do let's go ahead and check out our main really quick. So if we look in our main and we open this .github, we'll see we have a workflow named deploy.yaml, which is complaining. Oh well, that's fine. We see a few things. If you haven't worked with the GitHub Actions file before, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment, you can just deploy your website, test it really easily. It's kind of a whole other topic, but we'll just look at this one file. We have the name of our workflow. We have a few triggers that basically are when this workflow is going to run. So in this case, when we push something to our main branch, or I think create or merge a pull request against the main branch, or run it manually, this whole workflow will run. And our workflow just consists of one job with two steps. The first step, which is really the first step of almost any GitHub Actions job, is we're going to check out our code base. And then we're just using this other already created step that is MkDocs deploy to GitHub Pages. So in this case, gh-pages is the default branch when you are deploying a GitHub IO pages for a repository. And then the only thing we actually need to specify here, and I didn't even need to go and configure this, it's just there for me already. All I needed to do is add these two lines. Is this environment, and we specify our GitHub token, and then we're using the syntax that's basically saying inject this token, GitHub go and inject this token for me when our CI/CD runs. So we don't want to go and put a token here in plain text for all the world to see in our public repository. You could also use a personal token, slight difference between the two, but we don't need to get into that. So we'll see here, this is what it looks like. But if we open up our code online and go to, our repository online, and hop over to our GitHub Actions, we'll see where I was doing a little trial and error. Let's open the most recent one. And we'll just kind of navigate down. See the job gets set up. This step that we have sets up our Python environment for us, does a build of our document, our docs folder, check out our code branch, deploy it. Everything's looking good. We're not seeing any warnings or errors. Nothing too interesting going on here, but the really interesting part is if we change it. So right now you'll see that this intelliText samples.github.io MkDocs template. So this is the GitHub user with the repo name at the end. Let's go ahead and update our website for GitHub Pages. So in this case, we'll actually just create a pull request. We can do this all through the GitHub UI. So we'll create a pull request from our stylized code that looks really, really nice. Let's just create this pull request, create pull request. Maybe we should add some comments, but that's okay. We're going to have this job run. We'll see if this job fails or not before we merge. This one's actually pretty quick. This is the same job that we were just looking at. All right, looking good so far. And green, awesome. So our job finished, green flags, all our checks passed, one successful check. So let's go ahead and merge it. And we'll merge. I won't delete the branch, I'll leave it out there. Now I'll hop over to GitHub Actions. And now that we've merged to our main branch, we're going to trigger another workflow. So if we hop over to our workflow, we're just going to again see that it's running the same job. It just ran a minute ago, and it cached some of its results, I think. So this one's going to go pretty quick. You can see it's already got all this stuff satisfied, requirements satisfied. All right, green. Everything's looking good. Our CI/CD is working like a charm. If we hop over to our GitHub Pages URL, we'll do a Control F5, and boom, just like that. CI/CD in action, GitHub Actions in action, and this is out there on the web for anyone to go look at. And as easy as just merging our code to our main branch. So we've taken a look at GitHub Pages. It worked like a charm. We've taken a look at making our website look better. We added some content, and we started from basically a fresh start. So in summary, MkDocs, material for MkDocs, can be used to quickly and easily make a really nice looking site, generally for documentation, but you could do it for anything you want. Maybe a personal portfolio website, maybe a Star Wars fandom website. The sky's really the limit. There's a lot of stuff to add that we didn't even touch on. As I mentioned earlier, and we saw on the Fast API website, you can add JavaScript extensions. You can add all sorts of stuff to your website, but it's a really great framework to build off of, especially if you like writing your source code in Markdown, which I am a huge fan of. The slides that I actually am sharing are also written in Markdown, so I'm a big Markdown fan. If there are any questions, I'll take them. But otherwise, thank you all for coming, and I do appreciate your time. And be sure to join us next time in the Spokane Python user group. See you, Pythonistas.